Thank you for being at the Academy annual meeting. I'm Shelley Blondes. I'm the Executive Director of the American Academy of Orthotists and Prosthetists. And about 21 years ago, you welcomed me into this O&P family, and I'm proud to stand here today as your Executive Director. We have a fantastic meeting planned for you. We have outstanding education, an engaging exhibit hall, and we have fantastic sponsors and exhibitors that have given so much to the Academy, and we appreciate their continued support. We're a diverse O&P family. We're millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers. And together, we are going to accomplish great things. It's now my honor to present to you the President of the American Academy of Orthotists and Prosthetists, Rick Miller, CO, Fellow.
I'm pleased to welcome you to our 43rd annual meeting and scientific symposium. In keeping with our Academy tradition, please rise and join me in singing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Great job, Emily. I was the backup, so I really did say, join me in singing. And in case Emily didn't make it, I was going to jump up and, okay. But just wait, there's more. Well, thank you all. And before we begin the program, I would just, at this time, let us all take a moment and remember and honor those friends and colleagues who passed away this year. Their contributions to our orthotic and prosthetic profession will not be forgotten. We are pleased you have joined us here in Chicago, home of the world champion Cubs. I thought that might get some kind of reaction. Yeah, you Chicago people, come on. Not the White Sox people. We have an outstanding meeting planned for you that includes a keynote speaker, sure to touch your hearts and minds. But before we welcome Travis Roy to the stage, we have a few people to recognize. Our clinical content committee has been hard at work since last May, creating this tremendous educational networking event. I ask Mark Holoka, clinical content committee chair, and Jeff Kingsley, exhibits chair, to join me on stage. And as they do, I ask each of the committee members to stand as I call their names. Stefania Fatone, Shane Werdeman, Kinsey Heron, Sarah Peterson, Brian Califf, and Russ Horn-Fisher.
The
The Academy thanks you for all your creativity and dedication in creating this exceptional program. Thank you very much. As we recognize contributions of those dedicated to our profession, I ask that our Academy past presidents to stand so that we may thank them for their vital leadership over the years that has allowed the Academy to continually work to improve the profession and the lives of our patients. So, past presidents of the Academy, please stand. I also ask all current and past presidents of AOPA, ABC, AAOP, NCOPE, and the BOC to stand and be recognized. I now have the honor to introduce you to my board colleagues. We continue to work hard to serve you and our Academy. Board members, please stand as I call your name. Immediate past President Jason Highsmith. President-elect Alicia Davis. Vice President Lee Davis. Treasurer Kate Allen. And also directors John Brinkman, Jared Howell, Susan Kapp, Gerald Stark, Sarah Thomas, and Shane Worden. Well, there's not enough time in this opening session to share with you all that the Academy's volunteers have accomplished this past year. So I hope that you will join us on Friday for the membership, breakfast, and business meeting. Over the course of the next few days, you will have the opportunity to earn 45.5 credits by participating in a variety of exceptional educational programs that will provide you the skills to take home and improve your practice. The Academy app is your key to this meeting. Make sure you have it downloaded to your phone. Well, we all know that Chicago has much to offer, and I encourage you to find time to reconnect, relax, enjoy, and make the most of your visit. I'm honored and humbled by the opportunity to serve as your Academy president. The timeline for me to receive this opportunity was actually accelerated by 3 years. Due to unforeseen circumstances, 2 years ago I was asked to consider transitioning from second-year director to president-elect. Due to a temporary lapse in judgment, I said yes. So if this presentation seems to you like I could have taken several more years to prepare for it, you're absolutely right. But seriously, when the change was made, I thanked the board for their confidence. And I asked if they'd promise to help. They delivered on that promise, and I just want to thank this board of directors and officers for their support. Thanks to our executive director, Shelley, who works tirelessly for the Academy. I'm confident that she will lead the Academy boldly forward to embrace future opportunity and challenges. Also, the Academy has had a great staff that worked very hard on your behalf, and this meeting will showcase the fruits of their effort. Thank you all. I want to share with you my thoughts about 3 loves that have blessed my life. These loves I acquired before I turned the age of 20, and they endure to this day. The first, most important love of my life is my wife, Joan. And she doesn't know this, but I'm going to point to her and have her stand up and give her a round of applause, please. Actually, this being the 43rd annual meeting, Joni and my relationship is exactly 43 years old. Another love that I found while Joan and I were dating, no, it wasn't another woman. It's something that most of us in the room share, and that's the love for orthotics and prosthetics. With Joan by my side, and a chosen career, I have pursued both of these loves with passion for the past 4 decades. Well, granted, it wasn't the same form of passion, but it was passion nonetheless. The third love I discovered in my youth, and it too endures to this day. I will reserve my comments and reveal this love at the end of my talk, time permitting. The 5 pillars represent the Academy's mission. I'll discuss several key aspects of these pillars that are currently important to the Academy and the profession. Over a year ago, the Academy Board initiated a member needs assessment. This slide illustrates the results when members were asked, what are the most important benefits of Academy membership? Topping the list is advocacy on behalf of the profession. The Academy is unique in that it is a practitioner membership organization. As such, the Academy strives to represent your point of view and shares your interest in seeing that patients receive the best care from qualified providers. The Public Policy Committee was created partly in response to input from that member needs assessment. Formation of the Public Policy Committee was to strengthen the Academy's ability to engage in policy issues. It will support a renewed dedication to communicating details of policy issues to its members. State and federal issues will be the focus, along with a responsibility to keep the Board of Directors informed and advised. The Academy is one of the organizational members making up the O&P Alliance. As such, it is supportive of the process of collaboration with other stakeholders to advocate for the profession. The following is some concise information on 3 major issues receiving Alliance attention. The new administration has something in mind for the Affordable Care Act. We just don't know exactly what that is yet. But even before the proposals are announced, you are seeing some backlash from the public. When policy is at stake and benefits are involved, especially healthcare, people tend to get, shall I say, passionate. The Alliance is monitoring developments closely, with particular concern about any changes to the essential health benefits, which at this time includes O&P. Over a year and a half ago, the LCD issue stirred up considerable interest in government affairs. This substantial policy proposal caused another public outcry, this one aided by the profession's concern over the potential negative consequences for patient care. Significant public comment led to the formation of a government interagency work group, which is working to revise the policy. The Academy, through its Alliance reps' participation in the prosthetic subgroup, continues to focus on this issue, and more details will be shared as they develop. BIPA 427 became law in 2000 to direct CMS to issue reimbursement for O&P care only to qualified professionals. It was never fully implemented. As a result, orthotists, prosthetists, and other healthcare professionals such as OTs, PTs, and MDs have all been exempt from education, certification, and accreditation requirements to provide and bill for O&P care. Well, now 17 years later, proposed rules of the BIPA 427 proposal emerged just before the conclusion of the Obama administration. This current iteration of BIPA 427 proposes to lift that exemption for all providers of O&P care. Should this rule be imposed, O&P certification and accreditation would be a requirement of all providers and suppliers of O&P, including those other groups. Not surprisingly, the therapy groups are resistant to that proposal. It should be noted that BIPA only concerns prosthetic and custom orthotic care. There are many other factors involved in the BIPA proposal that are worthy of refinement, but the exemption issue has prompted a variety of opinions and possible alternatives. Members of the Academy's Public Policy Committee, its Alliance representatives, and the Board of Directors are crafting a public comment on this proposal on behalf of the Academy. We're also working within the O&P Alliance to arrive at a consensus document. We spent 4 hours this afternoon doing that very thing. The Academy is taking a position that is strongly supportive of the educational standards and certification requirements of our profession. Strategy and political maneuvering are concepts that I understand and respect, but it is the assurance of quality patient care that should concern us most. Please attend these sessions on Friday afternoon and Saturday that will discuss more detail about policy and how you can become involved with advocacy for your profession and on behalf of your patients. I'm proud to tell you that the Academy is making research investments this year in excess of $200,000. There are more projects in the works, and the Board of Directors is anxious to apply additional reserve funds to pursue many worthwhile endeavors. Also, the Academy is hopeful that this spring we might receive a favorable response from Medline regarding the JPO. What a fantastic boost to the professional stature of O&P within the medical research community should the JPO be accepted for Medline indexing. Last year at a meeting with an invited group of leaders, I offered an opinion about continuing education. I will state a disclaimer at this time that this is purely my opinion and I do not represent the feelings or opinions of the Academy in this section. I believe that while continuing education is a positive thing, that it may not be accomplishing all that it could. The potential flaw in our current approach is that it is entirely self-guided. Now, I'm not suggesting we don't know what's good for ourselves or that we always opt for the easy way out. I am, however, suggesting that we can elevate our professional education to include study of mandatory topics throughout our careers. Some state licensure laws use this approach. O&P schools incorporate new techniques into their curriculum, and emerging practitioners are equipped to implement those skills. Similar requirements that the profession's more seasoned practitioners receive formal education on specified topics is lacking. Eventually, continuing education with required courses can lead to a recertification process of more experienced practitioners. This would help ensure that the very latest concepts, procedures, and clinical practice are being implemented through guided continuing education and not relying on the current random self-selected method. Recertification is a model used by other healthcare professions to reinforce competency standards, and I believe it can enhance our profession as well. So now I have just a few additional thoughts that are maybe on the lighter side. There was another O&P meeting that took place in this very city at the LaSalle Hotel 75 years ago. It was the annual meeting of the ALMA, the Association of Limb Manufacturers of America. And yes, that's the very same organization that was to morph into AAOP, which brings me to offer a hearty congratulations to AAOP on 100 years of service to the profession. We're lucky to have AAOP in this profession, and we salute the many accomplishments over the past 100 years. Good luck, AAOP, in pursuing great achievements in the future. Now, I'm sure a few of you can potentially identify some of those characters that are there. They look quite a dashing group. And the band looks phenomenal. But before I run out of time, let me explain about the third love of my life. My love for music was sparked in grade school. I played the baritone horn and the harmonica, but in my late teens I found the style of music that I became passionate about, and that is Chicago blues. And coming up on the screen, you see that depiction. Those are some of my very favorite Chicago blues legends. But now I want to communicate something to you that I can't describe in words. It's time to let the instrument do the talking. I could have stood up here all night and talked. I wouldn't have got that kind of ovation. So there's power in music. Well, I appreciate your time and attention while sharing my thoughts about my loves with you today. My hope is that you all continue to be blessed with the loves of your life, and especially for the love of our profession of orthotics and prosthetics. Thank you. I now welcome Don Kotz, MHA, CO, Fellow, Chairman of the Orthotic and Prosthetic Education and Research Foundation's Board of Directors, to present the Tamarack Award.
Thank you, Rick. Well, that's a tough act to follow. My goodness, that was fantastic. So the OPERF Tamarack Prize is awarded to an individual who has made significant contributions to the practice and understanding of orthotic science. Ideal candidates are those who have a history of clinical care, scientific research, and peer-reviewed publications from within the orthotic profession. This year's Tamarack Prize for outstanding contributions to orthotic science and practice is awarded to Jonathan Naft, CPO. Jonathan's career as an orthotist began more than 25 years ago after completing the orthotic certificate program at Northwestern University following his graduation from the Ohio State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering. Within 5 short years, Jonathan founded Giaga Rehabilitation Engineering in Cleveland, Ohio. It was his passion for working closely with patients, fellow clinicians, and technical staff that he became increasingly motivated to develop new, innovative ways to improving the lives of those requiring his services. He developed the hip flexion assist orthosis to aid patients with multiple sclerosis, which led to a publication on the efficacy and safety of this orthosis in the Archives of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. The e-knee, which was the first commercially available electronic stance control KAFO, and the MyoPro, the first custom myoelectric upper extremity orthosis designed to restore function to those who otherwise had essentially no functional use for activities of daily living. A recipient of the Academy's prestigious Clinical Creativity Award in 2014, and known for being one of the nicest individuals with an incredibly gifted and generous spirit for his work, Jonathan epitomizes the traits worthy of recognition with this year's Tamarack Prize from OPERF. Jonathan, would you please join me on stage?
Okay. Thank you, Don. Thank you to the OPERF visionaries. Thank you to the Academy leaders. And also individually to Marty Carlson for having the vision to create this award to recognize the contributions in orthotic science. While I have just a few minutes at the podium, I'd like to capture the attention of the students in the room. Give me a clap if you're a student in the room. I think there's a lot here. Excellent. I'd like to take this opportunity to inspire you. I'd also like to inspire everyone else in the room to all do our part to contribute to the growth of the science of this profession. You don't have to raise your hands, but I'm thinking everyone in this room has an idea, something that we can do to make this profession better, to improve the science of what we do. Are you with me? You have ideas. They might be in business, they might be in marketing, they might be in sales. You know, we're all together in this. You could be a technician, you could be a clinician. I'm here to tell you that your ideas are doable. I'm reminded every day of how far we've come in this profession. I have been lucky in 27 years to work on projects on both the prosthetic side, but also on the orthotic side. But nothing like I've seen in the past 4 years on the orthotic side. Think about the last 4 years. We're seeing powered exoskeletons for the lower extremities. We have a host of new materials, composites, smart materials. We have new fabrication process in the last couple of years. And now what I'm excited about is this new space of myoelectric orthotics. What I've really learned is it takes a team. It takes a team to make a difference. When I worked on stance control to grow this space, I surrounded myself with people who were experts at education, experts at brace design, experts on publishing research, because that's what it takes. It takes a whole team. When I worked on hip flexion, it was the same thing. I was doing work, seeing patients at the Cleveland Clinic, and we were fitting a lot of MS patients with AFO. And as a team, we noticed that, heck, we can dorsiflex their foot all we want, but if they can't advance their leg, they don't ambulate as well as we can get them to. So as a team, we created something called the hip flexion orthosis. And as a team, we brought in statisticians, researchers, physicians, therapists, brace designers. And the end result was a published paper in the Archives of Physical Medicine. But even better yet, tour the exhibit hall today. You're going to see lots of other hip flexion orthoses. The work that we all do, if we're willing to share, we're willing to document, it will inspire growth in the industry, and it will foster research. Now I'm focused on something new, myoelectric orthotics. Let me bring you back to what I just said a minute ago about we all have an idea. A student several years ago had an idea that said, if someone is an upper extremity amputee, they get a prosthesis, which is myoelectrically controlled, and then they can regain function. Why can't we do that with someone who has an arm, but otherwise can't use it? Sounds like a heck of an idea. So what's next? Give you a guess, a team. So we have researchers, we have product designers, we have educators, we have physicians, we have therapists. Now I'm very proud to say in the short amount of time, and in fact less than 4 years with me, we have research going on at the Rehab Institute of Chicago, Northwestern University, New York University, the Cleveland VA, Cleveland Clinic, the Medical College of South Carolina, the Mayo Clinic, and the Ohio State University. OH! Yes. As one of my new roles, I'm a researcher at the Cleveland VA. I'm studying how patients with brain injury who have lost the function of their arm can also wear a myoelectric brace. Stay tuned. This is going to be good work, and it's going to help all of us and our patients that we work with. Next, I'd like to recognize a person named Chris Long. Chris has worked behind the scenes on every project I just mentioned. He's a technician. His hands have literally been on every project that I just mentioned. What's special about this story is this is how you foster and grow research. If we don't support our products with data, with evidence, we won't push the profession as far as we need to. So when I think back in my career early on, I literally wrote things down on napkins. If I showed a physician, hey, your patient's doing really well, I showed him a video, which is good. But it's not as good as showing the physician my last 18 patients and their difference in their box and block score, their difference in their Ashworth score, their difference in their strength and range of motion. Tabulate those. So what I guess I'm trying to say is you don't have to be a PhD member of the OPERT board to foster and grow research in this profession. So Chris, would you please stand and be recognized wherever you are? Thank you. So, Chris is exactly that. And he's been a big part of the growth of this profession. So I'd also like to thank my wife and family who put up with my ridiculous hours and frustrations when things don't work. A lot of stories behind that. Last, let me conclude by saying I'm going to honor this award by regarding the patients that trust me and all of us to keep advancing the science of what we do. I'm going to do my part to grow scientific research and be a contributing team member. A shout out to all my Myomo coworkers in the room. We're getting people to look up. This is making a difference. When someone comes in for an AFO and they have hemiparesis and they can't move their arm, people are starting to look up. We have wonderful options in the exhibit hall here, and it's time for us to grow our space into this new space. I pledge to work to assist and continue with peer-reviewed publications. I will use these funds to contribute to the overall growth of the profession. So I'd like to conclude by saying I'm very humbled by this because the team members I work with are incredibly talented. The people who have won awards tonight are talented. So let me wrap up by saying thank you, and let's all have a good conference. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jonathan, and thank you, Don. It's now my privilege to recognize two outstanding academicians for their service to the Academy. Alicia Davis, our president-elect, will assist me with the honors. Did you all hear that? Assist me with the honors. Thank you. Alicia.
Thank you very much, Rick. It is my honor and privilege to present the Academy's Distinguished Practitioner Award to Ann Yamani. This award recognizes an individual who, through their leadership and dedication, has helped to advance the profession of orthotics and prosthetics, and epitomizes these qualities. Ann graduated from the University of Washington Prosthetics and Orthotics program in 1976. She then moved to California to begin her professional career at Children's Hospital in Stanford. Under the leadership of Maurice LeBlanc, CP, and the mentorship of James Barnes, CO, Ann obtained her ABC certification in orthotics in 1978. Her desire to work in an adult rehab setting led Ann to return to Seattle and begin her career at the University of Washington in the Department of Rehabilitation Medicine. The founding chair of the department, Dr. Justice Lehman, and subsequent chair, Dr. Walter Staloff, grounded clinicians in an interdisciplinary team approach to clinical care that greatly influenced Ann's own approach to patient care. She joined the P&O faculty in 1987 and served as manager of the clinic until 2003. Ann was appointed program director in the Division of Orthotics and Prosthetics in 2006. And since that time has embraced the demands of both director and instructor. As an educator, Ann has helped over 300 students navigate the journey from student to resident and far beyond. In that process, Ann has dedicated herself to modeling and encouraging inquiry, and with the goal of deepening her students' critical thinking skills and prioritizing the well-being of her patients. She has promoted the advancement of P&O profession through interdisciplinary collaboration with PT, OT, and engineering faculty and students. She has volunteered her time and energy to numerous activities, including working with engineering students on clinical design projects, planning and participating in extracurricular student events, committing herself to diversity and patient-centered care. Ann has volunteered with the National Commission on Orthotic and Prosthetic Education since 2000, serving on the board from 2004 to 2009. She has worked on the Self-Study Review Committee and served as an accreditation site visitor. At the local level, she served as vice president of and president of the Northwest chapter of the Academy from 2006 to 2009. Internationally, Ann has been fortunate to serve as a guest instructor at Hong Kong Polytechnic University and volunteer with the health volunteers overseas in Vietnam. Currently, she is on the Education Committee for US ISPO and is working to develop collaborative learning community between Seattle-based P&O professionals and faculty at Brother Tarticus Prosthetics and Orthotics Training College in Ghana in an effort to promote cross-cultural understanding and further advance the O&P profession. Anne is known for her wisdom, equitable nature, open-mindedness, compassion, strong advocacy, and support for students and all of those around her. It is for these many accomplishments and for those yet to be realized that the Academy and its members proudly present Anne Yamani with the Distinguished Practitioner Award this first day of March 2017. Anne, would you please join us on stage? The Academy is now proud to recognize Frank Bostock, MBA, CO, Fellow, with the Titus Ferguson Award for Outstanding Career as a leader in profession and provider of quality care to individuals with disabilities. I would like to introduce Russ Hornfisher to join me on stage and to share details of our award winner.
Thank you, Alicia. Hey. Good evening. Good evening, AAOP members. Good evening. Okay, thank you, Alicia. This is Frank Bostock is the, put this up here. Frank Bostock is the 27th recipient of the Titus Ferguson Award, named in honor of Bert Titus, who started the O&P program at Duke University, Joe Ferguson, who started the O&P program, University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. How about that? The selection of Frank Bostock was for this award was one of the easiest you could ever come up with. Frank is immensely deserving of this prestigious award, this Lifetime Achievement Award of Titus Ferguson. If you look up in the dictionary, the definition of someone who just gets things done, you'll see the picture of Frank Bostock. He's just a guy that gets stuff done. He's a very special individual who just quietly goes about his work, doing creative, new things in O&P, and they get done. There's a lot of people who talk. There are very few people who get things done, and he's the guy. Without fanfare, notoriety, bragging, Frank just simply does it. He gets things done. A distinctive attribute of great leaders is their natural charismatic ability to attract smart, hardworking people. Frank's not only brought many people into the O&P, but he spent a lot of time helping them to grow professionally. The O&P profession is very, very fortunate to have Frank Bostock as their friend. Frank has been in the profession 45 years. His first exposure to O&P was through a close friend of his, George Mattingly. George's father owned a business called Groves Surgical in Phoenix, Arizona. Frank started out working at Groves, doing menial labor. While he was there, he completed his bachelor's degree at Arizona State University in 1973. He received his orthotics training at New York University and UCLA, then earned the ABC certification in orthotics. After a short time working at Groves, Frank met the Whiteside brothers. In 1976, Frank, George Mattingly, and the Whiteside boys, Steve and Ron, and there's a lot of stories to go with those four. That's why I'm doing this and they aren't, because they know too much about Frank. Anyhow, back to the presentation. Frank, George, Steve, Ron started their own business called Certified Orthotics. And the story goes that between the four of them, they dug deep in their pockets and they came up with $2,000. They started this business on $2,000, and it was a great start. All are excellent, excellent practitioners. They're very, very good patient care, very, very good patient care, but they weren't that great at business. So once again, Frank looked at it, saw the changes, improvements needed to be made in the business, took on the responsibility of managing the business. To manage the business even better and improve his business skills, he worked by day as an orthotist and went to school at night, working on an MBA at Arizona State University. In 1991, he earned the highest scholastic honor as a member of the Beta Gamma Sigma Honor Society, getting his MBA. After 20 years of building certified ONP, certified orthotics, into a leading patient care provider in Arizona, the company was sold to NovaCare, where Frank became Southwest Area Vice President. 1999, NovaCare merged with Hanger, where Frank continues to this day as Southwest VP. Okay, here's a few of the accomplishments, contributions Frank's made to your association, to American Association of Orthotics and Prosthetics. Okay, in 1998, Frank was elected to the Academy Board of Directors, which then led him to a continuum of volunteer duties, including chairing the annual meeting, creating an accounting structure committee, creating a fundraising committee. In 2000-2003, he was the president of this association, working to secure a Department of Education grant through Project Quantum Leap. He received a 5-year, $5 million grant for this association, which is huge. It was huge. Worked very, very hard with both Gary Lamb and Don Kotz to do that. He also improved the financial reporting systems, representing the Academy at the federal government level, representing the Academy during the negotiating rulemaking for ONP qualified providers. Frank's got several passions in life. His biggest is golf, and he uses that. He used that passion to conduct golf outings, golf tournaments, and raised over $200,000 for OPERF. It's the greatest contributor we have. Serving as treasurer for OPERF, he's also volunteered for numerous other Academy, AAOP, and NCOPE committees. He's constantly working on behalf of our industry, our profession. He's always giving of his time. He's always giving back, putting in more than he takes out. He also worked with the Arizona legislature in 2011 to write and pass 2 bills to reinstate orthotic coverage for ACOS Medicaid patients. ACOS Medicaid patients. Frank is really very proud of a lot of his accomplishments. One of them that stands out most of all is the work he's done on the Indian reservation, working with the Navajo, Apache, and Hopi Indians for orthotic child care. Utmost importance in his life is his family, his beautiful wife Paula, their 3 children, his daughter Frankie, his oldest son Todd. Many of you know Brett, or many of you know Todd by the wine he makes, and his youngest son Brett, who's a CO that also works in our field. Between them, they have 7 grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Frank for the honor of the Lifetime Achievement Titus Ferguson Award.
Thank you, Russ, for your kind words. And at this moment, I'm experiencing some of the emotions that I had when I received a call from Jason Highsmith last November, informing me that the Academy Board had selected me as this year's recipient of the Titus Ferguson Award. The call definitely took me by surprise. And it was one of those moments when I was truly at a loss for an appropriate response to the news that Jason had given me. And even now, I struggle for finding the appropriate words to say to express my feelings about being recognized as this year's Titus Ferguson recipient. I'll start by saying that I'm truly honored and I'm truly humbled that the Academy felt that my volunteer activities through the years to help the Academy and advocate for our patients and our profession were worthy of this recognition. Through the years, I've had the privilege of working with many amazing individuals, Academy board leaders, volunteer leadership, and the staff. Also, I've had the privilege of working with the staff and volunteer leadership of AAOP, ABC, INCOPE, and OPERF, in addition to OMP colleagues, Hanger's leadership team, individual in the Arizona State Legislature, physicians, and patients, all whom I believe share in this award, as they have also given their time, effort, and support on projects that we have all worked on together. And through the years and their efforts, they have helped to advance our profession, and they have truly made a difference in ensuring that our patients have access to the best possible OMP care provided by qualified OMP practitioners. However, there is one individual that I'd like to take a moment to recognize today, and his name is Jack Zimmer. And Jack is an individual that was selected to help the Academy boards in 2001 and 2002 at their strategic planning meetings. And I believe an individual that whose contributions at our strategic planning meeting had a significant impact on the Academy board, on me, and I believe the OMP profession. As our strategic planning facilitator, he provided us with a powerful tool for planning and goal setting that created a true paradigm shift in how the Academy board and I viewed the strategic planning process and goal setting. I still have fond memories of President Gary Lamb's Bandera Academy meeting where we did our strategic planning, when Jack opened the meeting by going through our agenda and then stating that it was good that we were spending time at this meeting going through goals, challenges, and successes from the previous year, and that we would be assessing goals and objectives for the upcoming year. However, he said, I strongly recommend that we should also spend some time discussing BHAGs. This is where he introduced us to the acronym BHAG. He wrote this acronym on the whiteboard, and then he asked the Academy board if anybody knew what this acronym stood for. Needless to say, there was silence in the room. And then he began adding letters to the acronym, and it spelled out the words big, hairy, audacious goals. This simple acronym truly was a paradigm shift for the Academy board and for me, as it created a mindset for accepting the challenge of setting truly audacious goals. Goals that many individuals would argue against and believe impossible to achieve. Goals such as the Academy's PQL, Project Quantum Leap. Looking back, I believe that PQL was the most important initiative that the Academy had undertaken at the time in its 30-year history. It was a multi-year initiative in which the American Academy of Orthotists and Prosthetists would advance the profession through conducting consensus conferences to document clinical standards of practice for the profession, initiate public awareness programs about OMP as career choices, ensure financial support of OMP university-based programs, and obtain funds for OMP applied research projects. And if that wasn't enough, the Academy would also have to secure a grant of at least $1 million from the federal government or from private foundations in order to support the PQL activities. Needless to say, PQL was definitely a BHAG for the Academy. And securing $1 million to fund it was truly pushing the BHAG concept to an extreme. It was not surprising that Jack's initial response to our PQL initiative was, this could possibly be the BHAG of all BHAGs. As expected, there were naysayers and critics that said the Academy would be wasting its time, efforts, and resources on such unattainable goals. But the paradigm shift had already begun during the 2001 Bandera Academy meeting. And the following year, at my Academy strategic planning meeting in Napa, the Academy board overwhelmingly agreed to stay on course with the Academy's PQL, its big, hairy, audacious goal. By staying on course and through the unwavering commitment of the Academy Board and staff, during the following 3 years, PQL became a reality, along with securing several $1 million in grant money that was used to fund Project Quantum Leap. Another BHAG for me was the legislative effort to reinstate orthotic coverage for access Medicaid patients in Arizona. In 2010, the state of Arizona passed a law eliminating orthotic coverage for its access Medicaid patients over the age of 21. Reinstating orthotic coverage for these patients would require that a new law would have to be passed, a challenge at a time when states were looking for ways to cut costs in their budgets, not add cost. BHAGs traditionally create opposition, resistance, and criticism from individuals that will tell you all the reasons why your BHAGs are unrealistic. The constant echo by individuals that are unwilling to take on big challenges and unwilling to commit to making seemingly impossible goals possible. How after 5 years, in the face of this opposition and the challenges to our efforts to get a new law passed, in 2015, our Arizona legislative BHAG came to fruition with the passage of House Bill 2373. Today, Arizona Access Medicaid patients now have access to orthotic care. Without setting audacious goals, great things rarely get accomplished. Receiving the Titus Ferguson Award is a great honor for me, and it's one that I'll always cherish, along with the honor of having the opportunity to work with dedicated and passionate individuals, setting BHAGs, and bringing them to fruition. So, as this year's recipient of the Titus Ferguson Lifetime Achievement Award, and again, I truly want to thank the Academy Board for this special honor, I'm interpreting the lifetime achievement connotation not in a past tense reference, but rather as a meaning that there needs to be some O&P BHAGs in my future. I cannot think of a better way to spend my time than working with individuals in the O&P profession that give their time and effort to take on great challenges, audacious goals that help our patients and advance the O&P profession. In closing, I would also like to recognize my beautiful wife, Paula, the love of my life and my best friend for 47 years, and Paula is sitting over there, with my son, Brett, who was also able to be here today. And I want to thank my entire family who have provided me with the love, support, and opportunity to pursue my career and volunteer activities in the amazing profession of orthotics and prosthetics. So thank you.
Well, congratulations, Frank. It's well deserved. It is now time for our keynote speaker. I'm pleased to be able to introduce to you a man who surrendered to no limits and defied all the odds. Please give a warm Academy welcome to Travis Roy.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to sharing a little of my story. I keep hearing all these references to the Academy. I just want to applaud them for getting the right recipients with the right awards. Anyways, yeah. Oh, that was a disaster. No, it's an honor to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing my story, some of my experiences, along with applying it a little bit to your field and some of my hopes and goals and dreams. The technology keeps advancing, so I'm gonna get a little taller for the people in back. This is a good one. This is a good advancement, especially helpful at bars. No, I just need help with a prosthetic to hold a beer. If you guys can help me with that, although it's a nice way of hitting on cute women to give me a drink. But I'm really not a comedian. But I don't know how many of you are familiar with my story. Probably not so many. So I always like to bring along a little video that helps get things started. So if we could play that first video clip, and then I'll take it from there.
Every once in a while, you hear a story that touches your heart, inspires you. A story of the little guy making good on his dream, of the downtrodden fighting their way back. The story of an individual who, standing on the horizon of his future, faces tragedy and heartbreak, only to find new dreams, ultimately succeeding at making them come true. All of that is only a part of the story of Travis Roy. As a child growing up in Maine, he lived, breathed, and dreamed of one thing: hockey. And he seemed to glide effortlessly toward that dream, culminating in his debut on the ice with the then national champion Boston University's Terriers. In October of 1995, after years of preparation and determination, he took his biggest step ever as he stepped onto the ice to cross off one very personal goal. 11 seconds later, it all came to a tragic and abrupt end.
So, as I found myself lying on the ice that night, the truth is, I think I knew almost immediately. I knew when I saw my warm breath starting to melt the puddle into the ice. I knew when I saw a hockey glove come moving towards me, and I realized that it was my glove. Still on my hand, but I couldn't feel it, I couldn't move it. It was the doctor who was moving it. And I knew when my dad, who rarely ever came down to the ice after any of my injuries, made his way towards me. And actually, I heard him before I saw him, and it was, "Come on, Trev, get up, be tough. There's a game to be played." I told him that my neck hurt, that I thought I was in big trouble. I was. You see, when I went into the boards that night, I fractured my 4th and 5th cervical vertebrae from the top of my spinal column. As a result, I'm a quadriplegic. My reality is that medical science hasn't figured out a way to connect the messages from my brain to my muscles. And that's the challenge that chose me. You see, I believe in life, there are times when we choose our challenges, and there's other times when the challenges simply choose us. It's what we do in the face of those challenges that defines who we are. More importantly, who we can and will become. 20 years ago, after my injury, I didn't know what was possible for me. In fact, I couldn't imagine how full life I could live. But I can tell you that I've come farther than I ever imagined. It's all because I helped my family, my friends, even through the kindness of complete strangers. Let me just say that if you don't think you can make a difference, that you have the power to inspire, to motivate, let my life be a lesson for you. I hope that by sharing my story with you today, I can help make a difference in your life. Maybe help me make a difference in someone else's. I'd even settle for just getting you to look at your life from a different perspective, because you might be surprised at what you find. You see, for 20 years, I pretty much chose my challenges. Most of them took place within the curved dashboards of an ice hockey rink. If there's a gene that passes the love of sport on from one generation to the next, I have it. I got it from my dad. You see, in the house that I grew up in, just off the kitchen, there was this closet. And on the back of the closet door, there was a old pencil sharpener, the ones with a metal arm crank. And my dad, he would always hang his coach's whistle from there, and on the floor was a bag of hockey pucks. I can still remember all those nights we'd finish dinner, he'd go to the closet, he'd get his whistle, the bag of pucks. I'd get my hockey bag, my hockey stick, and we'd get in the car, and it was off to hockey practice. Now, I never really enjoyed school. I was great at it, but I love sports. There's nothing I enjoyed more than just being in that car, going to the rink with my dad, just being in that moment when he would tip the bag over and the pucks would come flopping out onto the ice. Oh, it was my thing. It was my high. It was my passion. And I just knew it would be a part of my future. So in the fall of my freshman year in high school, I did what my coaches said all great athletes did. I I went into my bedroom, I sat down at my desk, pulled out a pen and a piece of paper, and I started to write out my goals. Thought about what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, how I was going to get there. What I came up with was part reality, part fantasy. I had short-term goals, like how many goals and assists I was going to score on the hockey team my freshman year, then my sophomore, junior, senior year. Finished my list of goals with my 3 dream goals. I would play Division I college hockey. I'd play in the NHL, just so I didn't sell myself short. I thought there might even be a spot on the U.S. Olympic hockey team. Seems when your dreams are big, there's always a challenge to overcome, a dose of reality that keeps you in line. My own personal challenge was a learning disability, dyslexia, in fact. But when it came to my goals, there was nothing that was going to stand in my way, so I vowed to maintain or be average, break 1,000 on the SATs, and then to be on to bigger and better challenges, my goals. Just for a minute, think about your own goals, whether they're personal, professional, this quarter, this year. How much do you want to make them happen? How far are you willing to go? When you close your eyes, can you see them taking shape? What can or will you overcome in the name of your passion, the name of your profession? Now, I know the whole idea of setting goals, it's a bit cliche, but it's cliche because it works. I just heard from Frank, just the importance of it. What was it? Big, hairy, ambitious goals? And I think the bigger challenge, I think setting goals is actually the easy part. And what's it take, 10, 15 minutes? Pen and a piece of paper, you evaluate them from time to time? I think the bigger challenge is what's going to keep you motivated to see them through, to make them happen. Now, I know a lot of people, they rely on fiscal incentives, right? Little rewards along the way. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's just a nice dinner out. But I always believe that there are 2 primary motivating factors that you've got to have. And the first one is you've got to want to see how good you can be at whatever it is you choose. I wanted to see how fast I could skate. I wanted to see how accurately I could shoot the hockey puck. I wanted to see how many of those goals that I'd written down my freshman year that I could cross off. Wanting to see how good you can be at whatever it is you choose. Whether you're just trying to be the best parent, the best boss, the best prosthesis, the best orthotics, tongue twisters. But hopefully over the course of your lives, you find something you're passionate about, that excites you. And then you want to answer the question, how good can I be? How far can I take it? What's my potential? Now I mentioned that there were 2 motivating factors. And the second one, the second one's basic. It's so basic that I wasn't even aware of it when I was younger. But in hindsight, I realized that this one thing drove me more than anything. Especially since my accident, trying to put my life back together. And to me, it all comes back to having pride. And pride is knowing that you tried your best. They didn't let your family down. That they didn't let your patients down. More than anything, it's knowing that you didn't let yourself down. Because only you know. Only when we know when we didn't put in the effort that it deserved. If you look up the word pride in the Webster Dictionary, it'll tell you that pride is something reasonable or justifiable self-respect. And it does. It's going to be reasonable. It's going to be justified. But you got to have that belief in yourself to attain your goals. Now, for me, hockey wasn't just a goal. It was my passion. And I was willing to do everything and anything I could to cross off my goals. comes back to the challenges and the choices you make to either face them or to let them take the lead. I was going to show everybody that I had it in me, that this little kid from Yarmouth, Maine could and would do it. The best shot I have at making my goals happen was to leave home, was to go away to a private boarding school in Massachusetts. So I transferred down to Tabor Academy in Marion, Massachusetts. After being the proverbial big fish in Little Frozen Pond up in Maine, I happened to be the little fish in the big pond. Why transfer? Remember, whatever it takes. How many times have you found yourself on the threshold, about to make something happen, to make a change in your career, to take a change that could change your life, to help change other people's lives? Did you make the leap? Or did you let your fears hold you back? Or did you jump in feet first and not worry about what might happen? Do you know what happens when you don't take that leap, when you don't take that chance? Generally nothing. My goals were everything to me. And everything I did was with an eye towards being the best hockey player possible, towards crossing my goals off one by one. And it paid off. By the time I entered my senior year in high school, I had been contacted by every major Division I college hockey program in the country that I ever dreamed of playing for. From the University of Michigan to my home state school, the University of Maine. Been contacted by the NHL Central Scouting Bureau. I've been able to maintain my B average. Broke 1,000 on the SATs. Granted, I did take them 5 times. That kind of sucked. Some goals come easier than others. And, but you know what? I even got a call from the head coach at Harvard. And I thought, you know, how cool is that? This undersized, dyslexic kid from Maine to crack open that door. It was an honor to go down and meet the coaches and tour the campus and see the facilities, but at the same time, I knew I didn't belong at Harvard. My parents had already figured it out. They were waiting for me to figure it out, I think, but actually, there was another school just across the Charles River that I knew was a more natural fit. And you see, the hockey program at Boston University was tops in the country with 4 national championships, including one from the previous season. They had sent over 60 players onto the NHL, more than any other school. 5 former Terriers had won Olympic gold medals. I figured the history of the program was clearly aligned to my goals. So I accepted a scholarship offer to Boston University. I can still remember that Labor Day weekend, walking to my door with my hockey bag and sticks in hand. At BU, kind of hockey is a big sport on campus. Didn't take me long to figure out some of the perks that came along with that. So I figured I better set my goals for the year. My academic goals, that is. I wanted to keep my grades up, maintain my eligibility, and I also had my hockey goals. You see, there were 6 freshmen, and only 4 were going to get to play in that first game. Well, that was my next goal. I want to be on the ice when they raised that national championship banner. Well, being a freshman, I knew, you know, you keep your mouth shut, you bust your ass, you work hard, you try to prove that you belong. You just hope you get noticed. Well, 2 days before our first game, Coach Parker, the head coach, he called me into his office and he gave me the news that I would play in the first game against the University of North Dakota. The second game against the University of Vermont, which coincidentally was my parents' alma mater. All I could think of was all those nights on the ice, the weeks, the months, the years, practicing my skating, my shooting. It had brought me to that moment. It was my goal, my challenge, and I had made all little decisions to help get me there. But the next big step, the next big challenge would be that first game. I'll never forget it. It was a Friday. It was Friday, October 20th, 1995. And I woke up that morning, and it was the best day of my life. Remember going to classes. I went to the pregame meal at T. Anthony's right on Com Ave. It was a 7 p.m. face-off. I remember I was in the locker room by 4:30, and the locker room had just been redone that fall. We had our own stall with our name etched on the nameplate above it. It's a scarlet red carpet with a terrier mascot woven into it. Up on the walls are pictures of past BU hockey players who had realized their own dream and moved on to the NHL. I kind of hope maybe someday my picture could be on about that wall. I sat in my stall and I began preparing my hockey sticks. It was the first time in my life where I'd custom-made sticks where the curve of the blade was exactly as I'd asked the factory to bend it. Best part of all is my name been printed on it, just like the pros. I'd finally made it. They were raising the national championship banner that night. The game was being televised. My sister Toby, she was in the rink. Fiance Keith. A bunch of my friends from high school had gotten tickets. Some of my old coaches. Of course, my mom, my dad. They made the drive down from Maine, all those drives to the rink, the pregame meals, the bags of pucks. They wouldn't miss this moment for the world. I was playing in the third line. And 2 minutes into the game, we scored. In the old Walter Brown Arena, the place went nuts. The fans were going crazy. The pep band started playing. And then I felt it. It was the tap on the back of my shoulder that I had been waiting my whole life for. And it was Coach Parker. He's signaling to me. It was my turn to take to the ice. It was my moment. We're going to watch this video clip. It's right when they dropped the puck.
That shot hit him right in the middle, but he was there to corral the rebound and put it in.
Saw it down in the dark hallway there next to the BU bench. Jack Parker talking with Chris O'Sullivan after the goal, and we have a BU player down in the corner. And the concern for the injured player for the Terriers is it's Travis Roy.
Skated in there just as fast as I could and kind of deflected off him. And my momentum took me head first into the dashboards.
I got close enough so I knew Travis could hear me, and I said, "Hey, Trav, come on, let's get up. There's a hockey game to be played." And by then I had reached him and the people around him, and he was laying on his back with a collar on.
And when he knelt down, I said, "Dad, I'm in big trouble," and I said, "My neck hurts. I can't feel anything, can't move anything." And but I said, "But Dad, I made it."
He looked at me straight in the eye and said, "But Dad, I made it."
I had made it. I stepped out on the ice for a Division I college hockey team, and nobody could take that away from me. Accomplished my goal, one of my dreams. It maybe only been 11 seconds from the time the referee dropped the puck until he blew his whistle. But for those 11 seconds, I proved that this little kid from Yarmouth, Maine had beaten the odds, had chosen his challenge, and had made it. I proved it to everyone. Most importantly, though, I'd proven it to myself. At the same time, challenge had chosen me. And now my goals would have to change. When the doctors found my parents in the waiting room, in the emergency room, they'd already seen the x-rays, and they'd explained to my parents the extent of my injuries, my prognosis. And my parents are obviously devastated. My mother, though, she had one question. She asked the doctors, "Who's going to tell Travis?" But as I said, I knew almost immediately that my neck hurt, that I was in big trouble. But those weren't the only thoughts going through my head that night as I was lying on the ice. And I knew more than anybody else in the rink that night that my dad would understand. And just before they carted me off that ice, I just had to acknowledge the moment. And I said to him, but Dad, I made it. 3 days after my accident, the surgeons, they used a metal plate, 3 screws, a bone graft in my hip to help stabilize my neck. They put me on a ventilator. I was on it for over 2 months. I couldn't talk, so the only way I could communicate was by blinking my eyes once for yes and twice for no. Only sounds I could hear was that of the machines around me. And I had pneumonia, and I had partially collapsed lung, and I had stomach ulcers. Some other steroids had been given me to try to keep the swelling down on my spinal cord. And I was rapidly losing weight. It's about 175 pounds that game night, and I got down to about 120 pounds. Developed a large pressure sore on my tailbone that prevented me from getting my wheelchair and starting my rehab. So for over 4 months, I lay in a hospital bed looking up at white cork ceiling tiles. Most of the time, especially in the beginning, the drugs, they made me numb. I couldn't feel anything. I didn't want anything. I didn't think anything. When I did think, I wondered, what's going on? What's this doing to my parents, my family, my friends, the people around me supporting me, encouraging me? They felt my pain, for me, in fact. I just wanted to take away all the pain, all the suffering. Just let me deal with it. Don't let it affect anybody else. And then there were times I wondered, is this what the rest of my life is going to be like? It's that feeling inside that each of us has in some way, at some point in our lives where, I'm sure your patients go through this, we just can't take any more. Just don't have an ounce of energy left to face another challenge, let alone overcome another obstacle, but we can. I'm sure you've seen this too. It's a matter of sheer will. Because I truly believe that every one of us, we have an inner spirit that is capable of doing things that we never imagined. It's a matter of determination. I was determined. So along with my family and I, we made the decision to transfer me down to the Shepherd Center, a specialty spinal cord hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was the right decision because almost immediately I began to see and feel the difference. Even little things like the butterflies when I painted up on those white cork ceiling tiles. Sometimes a change in scenery is all it takes to turn your attitude around. It's a matter of perspective, the way you look at things, the way you choose to look at things. Sure, this challenge had chosen me, but I still had a choice too. And I chose to believe that this place could give me back what I most wanted, which was just control over my life. The goals, they were different now. They were very different, but I still had something to prove to everyone around me, to myself. Believe it or not, it was hard not to be positive when I saw the outpouring of support and assistance that my family and I received from that very first devastating day on. I came from Boston, New England, the whole country, really. In my book, I refer to the people that came to our aid as angels carrying us along the way, and they did just that. Hundreds of thousands of dollars was raised on my behalf. There's the Friends of Travis Roy was for in my hometown. There was a group of mothers whose kids I taught how to skate. They did bottle drives. Celebrity athletes and hockey players, they donated items to be auctioned off. They held a 12-hour telethon in Boston. There was even a little boy who broke open his piggy bank and he donated $7.23. You guys know what it's like to be an angel in someone's life. You're making a difference. You can make a difference. My parents and I, we witnessed the very best of humanity, and it was unbelievable. Almost as unbelievable as the changes we started to see once I arrived at the Shepherd Center. You see, the plan was for me to be there for 8 weeks of intensive rehab, after which I'd be sent back to Maine to begin my life as a quadriplegic. Well, 2 days after I arrived, I found myself in a wheelchair for the first time in my life, and as you know, that was when reality hit. It hit hard. Myself, my parents. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't depressing. It was. But then I started to think about the alternatives. I realized that being in the wheelchair was infinitely better than laying in a hospital bed, which I'd done for over 4 months. I also realized that there were many people that were much worse off than I was. Some of them were never going to get off the ventilator. Didn't have family there to support them, encourage them, insurance to cover the bills. And I quickly realized I was one of the fortunate ones. Yes, sometimes the challenges do choose us. And that's when it takes everything we've got to face them, to make the right choices and define who we are. The choices you make and when you make them really do say so much about you. Think about your own goals. Think about your own life. You satisfied where you're at with your career, your life, your weight, the relationships in your life? Sure, we all have things we'd like to change, but what do? What do you choose to do? The fact is, change is a challenge. You have to face your challenges no matter what they are, whether you chose them or they chose you. But you always have a choice. I had a choice when I got to the Shepherd Center and saw the opportunities that were there. I could either wallow in self-pity and likely end up bitter and resentful, or I could understand that, yes, you know what, fate had dealt me quite a hand. But I still had so much to live for, so much to be thankful for, so many choices yet to make. I came up with new goals. I set my sights first on just trying to get through therapy. Decided to eventually go back to school and finish what I started. I would be independent. It's lofty of a goal for a quadriplegic, as I would say, trying to make it to the NHL. Mostly, though, I just wanted to be able to make a living, to have a life. Just as I had done when I mapped out my hockey goals my freshman year in high school, I had to start with the small things. One of the first was just learning how to feed myself again. I spent 6 weeks with my physical therapist, my occupational therapist, trying to get my hand strong enough to get my hand from get my arm strong enough to get my hand from my plate to my mouth. But I can still remember that first bite of food. Rather than starting with something like, a light, airy potato chip, I chose a bagel, a dense, heavy, full of carbohydrates bagel, toasted cream cheese, a little butter. I figured it better be good if I could put the effort in. And it was amazing. It took the same effort and concentration to get that bagel from my plate to my mouth as it did 6 months earlier to bench press 175 pounds. But I still got that little sense of satisfaction, that little bit of a feeling that I'm making progress. Pardon the pun, but finally taking a step forward. And yeah, you know what? Sometimes setting goals, they can help us realize our goals and our dreams. But a lot of times, setting goals can just help us get on the right track, help us start a new course. I gotta tell you, eating that bagel that night was one way I discovered that my limitations were only what I decided that they were going to be. See, at the Shepherd Center, they encouraged us to try different activities to help acclimate us back into society. This one night, they took us to the airport, and we learned to transfer on a plane and realized we could still fly. Went to the mall, and went to the movie theaters, and there was one night where they invited a scuba diving instructor to the rehab pool. I thought that sounded kind of cool. I wanted to check that out. So we all got on the elevators, we went down to the pool level. We all came rolling off. We're all lined up around the pool, kind of looking at each other, looking at the pool. All I could envision was the five of us sunk at the bottom of the pool. I thought, this is going to get ugly. I'm not going first. Well, 10 minutes later, I found myself in a wetsuit with an oxygen tank strapped to my back and a regulator in my mouth. And the instructor lowered me to the pool and grabbed me by the wrist. And she pulled me all around from the shallow end down to the deep end. And I got to tell you, it was amazing, this heavy, awkward, limp body. It was at peace again. And it was tranquil, and it was amazing, but going scuba diving was just the start. You see, at the Shepherd Center, I realized I still had so many more opportunities if I was only willing to take them. How many times in our lives do we let our limitations get in the way? If focused too much on the things that didn't go right, the goal that didn't come to fruition, the design that didn't quite work out the way we hoped it. But opportunity is still there if you choose to see it. I realized that there was far more living left to be done for a quadriplegic than I ever thought possible. Yes, things would take a little more time, a little more planning, the help of some adaptive equipment. I'd have to learn how to do things differently, like just doing my artwork by painting with my mouth. Just going out to a new restaurant for the first time, figuring out how it was all going to work. But I started to see the possibilities. And quite frankly, the power of a positive attitude. I know it's another cliche, but I swear in your profession, it's nothing more powerful to those patients. They feel that energy. As soon as you walk in the room, they're looking for answers. And when they feel that positive attitude, when they feel the energy, I'm telling you, you're halfway there. Get them to look at their life from a different perspective. Positive attitude every hour, every week, every day, every month, every year. It'll take you further in life than anything else. As it turned out, I would need every ounce of that attitude as I left the safety net of the Shepherd Center, that many of the most difficult challenges were still to come. One of them took place on April 13th, 1996, the day I went home. You see, while I was in the hospital for almost 6 months, I always believed that things were going to get better. Those were the thoughts that got me through it all. Coming home was when my life was going to resume, at least it was supposed to. I'll never forget getting out of the wheelchair accessible van and looking at the house that I'd grown up in, and the barn had been torn down. They were trying to add in a new addition for me, and it wasn't done quite yet, and they had this big zigzagging ramp to get up to the front door. The house was built in the 1840s. It wasn't the ADA code, I can assure you that. Later that night, my parents, they got me ready for bed, and they used a Hoyer lift and a sling, and they lifted me out of my wheelchair, and they brought me over to my bed, and they lowered me down, and I looked up at that same ceiling where I had all those hopes, all those dreams, all those goals. This wasn't part of the plan. And I couldn't help it, the tears, they just started rolling down my cheeks. And I looked down, I saw my dad and sitting on the edge of the bed, and he's a pretty big, strong guy, and I saw the tears rolling down his cheeks. There's nothing worse than seeing your dad cry like that, And I knew I wasn't the only one affected, it was everyone around me. I had already made it my goal to be as independent as possible, but this wasn't just a goal to cross off. This was my life. Getting on with my life and figuring out who I now was and where I fit in, it was critical. This precipitated my decision to return to Boston University in the fall of 1996. I got to tell you, it was a far different scene than as I found myself sitting in front of the exact same dorm that I'd walked into just 10 months earlier. Only this time there was no hockey bag, no sticks, no cute girls trying to catch my eye. It was just me in my wheelchair with my keratin. And I hadn't anticipated what it was going to be like, Just taking things 1 hour at a time, Heck with one day at a time. One of the first nights I went down to the cafeteria. Cafeteria is probably about a quarter this size, third of the size of the first room. And I rolled in, and it was, oh my God, it was packed. It was so full of energy. Everybody's so excited to be back at school, and meeting up with old friends and meeting new friends, and there's just so much energy. And it was overwhelming to me. How do I fit in? Who am I, And I remember just taking a deep breath and thinking, giving myself a little pep talk, thinking, all right, come on, Trav, you can do this, just, it's not that complicated, just roll through the food line, and I did. My care attendant came along with me, and we picked out my food, and I came out from the kitchen, I looked out, and all the tables, they were full, and I thought, oh, come on, just let me hide somewhere in the corner, and there were some empty seats in back, but I didn't want to make everybody stand up, and unfortunately, a few of my classmates, they're just about done. They realized, and they saw my dilemma, and they got up and they left, and I rolled right up to the table, and my care attendant sat down next to me and began to help feed me. And it wasn't until about 10 or 15 minutes later when all of a sudden it dawned on me that as busy and as crowded as that cafeteria was, nobody sat down at my table. And I knew it was one of two things, because I don't know if I would have done anything differently if the roles were reversed. And either people were intimidated, they didn't know what to say, they didn't know what to do, it's just easier to walk by, you know. For other people, I was almost invisible to them, you know, it's just easier to let's just walk by. And they tried to make excuses, you know, that they're going to classes or meeting up with their friends, they're going to practice. And everything became a big deal, you know, for me too, allowing enough time to get up in the morning to get to class, to get anywhere. But nobody ever asked me the questions I knew that they had. You know, what I could feel, what it was like being paralyzed. So what I tell people, that I encourage people to do, I tell them, don't overthink this. And you guys know this is better than most audiences that I talk to, that just put a smile on your face. Look that person in the eye and say hello. That's all I wanted. You know, I just wanted someone to come up to me to see that I was still the same Travis Roy. Because it's true, it's what's inside that makes us who we are, what keeps us motivated to face the day, to face the challenges, to make the choices. I encourage you, make that choice. I wish somebody had come up to me during those dark days, during my freshman year, but I gotta tell you, don't mind looking back. What surprises me the most is how full, how independent, how productive my life has become. Things have settled out, so I know what to expect each day, each week, each month, each year. My freshman year at BU, I had a neat opportunity. I had a publisher that asked me, I want to write a book, and we hired a good ghostwriter, and I wrote a book entitled 11 Seconds, and updated at my 10-year anniversary, my progress so far, and it was a great experience. And I graduated from BU with a degree in communications. I did in 4 years. I was proud of that. A few extra summer classes, but I got through it. I've worked this fulfilling, you know. I travel around. I talk to a lot of different audiences, and I also started the Travis Roy Foundation. It's raised about $10 million. Half the money raised goes towards research. I'm hopeful for breakthroughs. I'm counting on you guys. The exoskeleton, some of these other more advanced pieces. It's all a piece of the puzzle. I'm a little worried. I don't know that I'll walk again. It's been 21 years since I was injured. But I tell you, if I could just use my fingers again, you know? If I just had the ability, my upper body, so I could get myself dressed, to get myself to the bathroom, to shower, so that I didn't need 24/7 home care attendants. Boy, I am almost scared to hope, but I do believe those breakthroughs are on the way. They're a little further down the road, and I know that you guys are going to play a big role in pieces of that puzzle, and I need you guys. The spinal cord injury community needs you. The other half the money we raise, it goes towards adaptive equipment grants. As you know, it's unbelievable what people can do with a disability if they just got the right technology. And we provide wheelchairs and voice-activated computers and clone modifications, and really proud of the work that we've done with that. I live in Boston. I live outside of Kenmare Square, not too far from Fenway Park. You're welcome for that Theo Epstein deal, Chicago Cubs fans, but my best part of my life, though, is I spend a lot of time up in Vermont. I've got a summer cottage up there. And it's interesting, after my accident, a couple years after my accident, I had this girl, she came up to me. I was at this opening ceremony of this lab in New Jersey at Rutgers, and we were talking about different things, and she talked about how there would be gifts. How there'd be gifts with this spinal cord injury, and I quite frankly, I thought she was insane. How could there be possibly gifts in a devastating injury like this? But I'm getting older, and I'm getting wiser, and I'm starting to not only feel these gifts, but I embrace them. And I mentioned, I enjoy the simple things. I pay attention to the simple things. Not only are they simple, but if you ask me, they're the most valuable things that we have in our life. I love just rolling out on my deck in Vermont, looking over Lake Champlain with my t-shirt off, just feeling the sun on my shoulders. Watching the boats, the sailboats, listening to the birds, literally smelling the flowers. I've got nieces and nephews, and they're always waiting for Uncle Trav to come join in the day. And it takes me a little longer, but I'm right there in the middle of things, and I've got a pontoon party boat, and I can roll right onto it, and we go fishing and swimming. And no, maybe I can't do the physical things I used to, but I can still laugh. I can still cry. And you tell me, what's more important than that? I'm still the same Travis Troy I've always been, except now I'm rolling through life instead of skating through it. Find pleasure in the simple things, whether it's just a bowl of cereal with fresh fruit or a sunny day. But I hope that by hearing my story, I've helped you see that who you are at the core is really what's going to get you through life's challenges. Whether you chose them or they chose you. That having a passion can drive you to do great things if you set the goals you need to make them happen. That having pride in everything you do can make most anything possible. And that a positive attitude will help you through some of the darkest days of your lives. Now, I've had my share of challenges along the way. Some I chose, others chose me. But I like to look at each day like a new face-off. A new opportunity to prove that this little kid from Yarmouth, Maine did make it. And that nothing is going to stand in my way. Now, I know this is just the kickoff to a pretty intensive educational conference, and I just want to take a moment. And hopefully you hear it a lot from your patients, but just in case you don't, I want to thank you for the services that you provide, for the new designs, for the new technology, for the patients, to help make people like myself, our lives a little bit better, a little bit more independent. I also, and this is a little bit slightly different, but I, as a proud American, in watching all our service members come back from the battlefield, I feel a little helpless. But I've also watched and seen plenty of documentaries and 60-minute pieces and on the power of what your work is doing and getting our soldiers back into their lives and hopefully helping them kind of experience what I have, to go from that moment of devastation to eventually realizing that, boy, there's so much more life left to be lived, and I just know you guys are playing a big role in that, so I thank you for that piece as well, for taking care of our soldiers and providing them with better lives. But I hope, I wish you the best with this conference, with the rest of your careers, and I just cannot overemphasize the power of what you guys can do. One little quick story, and when I was at the Shepherd Center, it was just state-of-the-art. The therapists knew what they were doing. And it was incredible to walk in there with that confidence every day and to know that the people had the confidence with them. And then I went back to Maine, and I was working in a little outpatient clinic, and I got to tell you, one of my physical therapists, she just became very clear to me. She didn't know her stuff as well as I was accustomed to down at the Shepherd Center. And I realized, thank God, I had good physical therapists and occupational therapists for the most part, because if you're not providing the best of care and staying up and keeping your education on new therapies and treatments and materials, then you end up you're doing a disservice to your patient, and you don't let them live to their maximum, to the best life that they can live. So again, I just applaud you again for what you're doing. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I enjoy having an opportunity to share my story. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I know we've run a little late. I don't know, would you like me to take a couple questions? Or I'm looking forward to having a drink and hanging out and mingling with you guys a little bit too. So whatever you'd like to do.
If you want this group to pose a couple questions, anybody come up to the microphones? I think they're hot. So if anybody has a question for Travis, otherwise, make your way to the microphone. But I'd just like to say, on behalf of my colleagues and guests in the room, we thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And you've truly inspired us to look at our challenges of our life in new ways.
I appreciate it.
So
I'll see you at the bar. All right.
Yeah, you're more than invited, and please bring along your dad, Lee. I know I talked to him earlier.
Will do.
So join us for some refreshments, and we'll see you all there at the exhibit hall too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.